Our guest today is Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko. We're going to talk about the genocide case between Ukraine and Russia, and also about a few updates concerning the Russian war against Ukraine, which has lasted for more than 2 years. But there are signs that, in fact, the fortunes might actually be turning towards Ukraine's favor. So, hello and welcome to TVP World. And
Hello.
I'm assuming, okay, yeah, for a moment I was not sure if our audio was working correctly, but it is. Now, before we actually move on to the question of genocide, which has been high on the agenda, and indeed the ICJ is due to hold another hearing concerning this particular case tomorrow, a quick update concerning Ukraine's defenses. There have been reports that another Patriot battery will be transferred by the US forces from Poland to Ukraine. Can you give us a quick comment on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's very important because the Air Force is the biggest problem of Ukraine in Russian missile and drone attack. Russia is using their huge advantage in Air Force, so we need to stop it. And one more Patriot system will definitely be very, very useful. It will save hundreds of lives. It will stop Russians from attacking some of Ukrainian energy infrastructure, civilian residential buildings, and military infrastructure. So that is very important, but we need more, and that's good. One system is good, but as it was already requested by Ukrainian authorities, we need at least 7 systems to completely cover the most, just not completely, but to cover the most important areas. And we hope that our partners will help us in this, because in the world there are a lot of systems, and most of them are protecting the countries of the West from nobody knows who, because there is no at least direct threat in these areas. And in Ukraine there is a direct threat, and we need them desperately. So it's a very good decision. We are very happy. We are very thankful. Yeah, but we hope that it will be not the last decision like this.
And for a quick comment concerning Ukraine's latest battlefield successes, we've recently heard that there were successful ATACMS strikes against targets in Crimea and also in Russia itself. Now, that included the destruction, apparently the first of its kind, of a Su-57 stealth aircraft. Now, that was Russia's pride, and they were trying to keep it away from the battlefield, only for it to be destroyed by drones. So can you give us a quick comment on this?
Yeah, that's a huge success of Ukrainian army, which is already confirmed by Russians too, that Su-57, the most modern Russian military plane, was at least heavily damaged or maybe destroyed, so irreversibly damaged by Ukrainian drone attack. It was not ATACMS, it was Ukrainian drone attack. And this is very important. This is really success. And that's the first loss of such planes in the history of Russia. So that's really important. And yes, with the ATACMS, Ukraine has possibility now to reach not only Crimea, but also rush some of parts. It's not with the ATACMS, but with a shorter range, but still with Western weaponry. Some parts of Russian territory, which is neighboring to Kharkiv region, where Russia is trying to attack Ukraine in order to put chaos on the city of Kharkiv.
So one only wishes that these decisions had been made months ago, because this would have saved many Ukrainian lives. Now, moving on to the genocide case, can you tell us about your expectations? Because this case is being pursued in a very roundabout kind of way, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very important case, because that's saying what Russia is really doing in Ukraine. And I want to remind everybody that there is an international United Nations Convention on Prevention of Genocide. And there is clear definition in this convention what is genocide. And there are 5 criteria. And if the situation has just one such criteria, it's already enough to call it genocide. But unfortunately in Ukraine we have all 5. What are these criteria? First is public rejection of the fact that some group exists. Religious, or in our case, ethnic group, Ukrainians. And that's what it's crazy. I mean, I think for everybody who are watching you now, you can have any position, you can, I don't know, believe in any politics, but you can't just reject that Ukrainians exist. And Putin rejects. He says that Ukrainians do not exist as a group, that these are Russians, but bad Russians, some misunderstood Russians, some brainwashed Russians by West, and so on, so on. So Ukrainians do not exist. Second criteria is destroying of cultural heritage of the group. And again, that's what Russia is doing, burning our monuments, books, and that's what they're always doing the first in the occupied areas. The third criteria is sexual crimes, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we also have it in Ukraine. And one more criteria is forceful deportation of people, first of all, children, in order to make from Ukrainian children Russians. And that's exactly what they're doing. And the fifth criteria is mass murders, not just of everybody, but those who are most active in the group. So that's what Russia is doing against Ukrainians, killing not just military, but civilians in the occupied areas, those who are resisting. But just because they are Ukrainians and they don't want to give up their identity. So
this is a very compelling case for being able to ascertain that what Russia is doing in Ukraine is in fact genocide. And there are many opinions such as yours which confirm that. But the ICJ actually is, as I've mentioned, going about it in a very unusual way. I mean, the trial itself is not about determining whether Russia is committing genocide. It was in fact initiated by Ukraine to prove that Russia was abusing the Genocide Convention of 1948 by alleging that it was averting the genocide of Russian speakers in the Donbas region. So the court also quite unusually said that it was not able to decide on whether Russia was abusing the Genocide Convention, but it would decide whether Ukraine was committing any kind of genocide, which of course we know that was not the case because the Russian propaganda was using this argument falsely. But why do you think the ICJ is going about it in this way? I mean, it's not really touching upon the crucial issue here, i.e. the ongoing Russian war crimes. Instead, it's determining, whether Ukraine was committing war crimes like in the past, which of course we know what really was the case here, right? I'm sorry maybe that I was explaining too long what is really happening in Ukraine, because I think it's more important. Speaking about ICJ, International Court of Justice, yes, that there were Russian allegations against Ukraine, and for us important to say and to have decisions saying, well, that's absolute bullshit, sorry, this is propaganda. And this is bullshit. So no genocide, never. How Ukrainians can commit genocide against themselves in Donbas and Ukrainian citizens and so on. And Ukraine lived for decades as an independent state, absolutely with a calm, peaceful life for all people in Donbas, in Western Ukraine, in Central Ukraine. There was peace, there was calm situation just before Russians arrived. So, for us, it's important to receive the verdict of the courts, ICJ. Why they are watching it? Because there is these allegations. We have air raid a lot. So that's the situation. But why do you think no case was brought against Russia before the ICJ? Because as you've mentioned, there is compelling evidence that Russia has been committing war crimes for quite a while now. We have Bucha, we have Irpin, we have Mariupol. We also have evidence from the Russian media where they openly deny Ukrainian statehood and Ukrainian identity. So why has no case been brought before the courts to determine once and for all that Russia is committing genocide?
We definitely need to do this. I agree with you 100%. For us, everything is clear, but to be clear for the whole world, we need to go this way, and I have no doubts in this.
And do you think that it's going to have any major impact because the decisions of the court are not enforceable by the court itself? And also, with respect to the ongoing case, the court said, or the commentaries concerning the decisions of the court seem to agree that this judgment will not be out for at least a couple of years. So even if we brought a new case concerning the Russian genocide of Ukrainians, that would be even longer, right? It would take even longer. So what is the impact going to be here?
It's one more evidence for all of us that the international system of justice doesn't work the way it should work. And such crimes awful as Russia is committing against Ukraine, which is absolutely known for everybody, it's so black and white picture because there are many conflicts in the world and not always they're so black and white like here when it was an independent state and then another country just attacked it, destroying civilian infrastructure, killing people, denying the existence of such a group or state and so on. So that is very clear. And now we have again like a red alert. And I'm sorry, I need to also to go to shelter. But before this, I want to tell you that that's one more sign of all Russian crimes against my country.
So it is a dramatic conclusion of this conversation. Kiev and other cities in Ukraine are being constantly attacked by the Russians, and everyone needs to care about their own safety, going to the shelters as these attacks approach. Oleksiy Goncharenko was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.